My name is Commander Aurora Rory Sterling, and am 32 years old. Last weekend, my younger sister Cassandra decided to humiliate me at her engagement dinner, calling me a wannabe soldier in front of her Navy SEAL fiancé. She had no idea I'd just returned from a classified mission overseas. What happened next changed everything between us forever. The moment Lieutenant Commander Jake Morrison saw my dress blues hanging in my car and snapped to attention, saluting me with wide eyes, was just the beginning of Cassandra's world crashing down around her. But before I tell you how my sister's lies unraveled spectacularly, let me ask, where are you watching from tonight? If you're ready for a story about family betrayal, military honor, and the sweetest revenge served ice cold, smash that like button and hit subscribe because this family drama gets absolutely wild. Trust me, you won't want to miss how this ends. Growing up, Cassandra and I were inseparable. She was the baby of the family, 3 years younger, with golden blonde hair and sparkling blue eyes that could charm anyone. I was the responsible older sister with auburn hair and green eyes, always looking out for her. Our parents, both civilian contractors for the Department of Defense, raised us on various military bases around the world. While Cass gravitated toward cheerleading and popularity, I fell in love with military strategy and leadership. The divide started in high school when I announced my intention to attend the Naval Academy. Cassandra laughed, saying I was too soft for military life. She chose a prestigious private college instead, studying communications and public relations. Our parents supported both paths, but I noticed how Cassandra's achievements always seemed to overshadow mine at family gatherings. Her sorority president election got more fanfare than my academy graduation. Her marketing internship was celebrated more than my first deployment. After graduating from Annapolis, I threw myself into my naval career. I specialized in intelligence operations and quickly rose through the ranks. Meanwhile, Cassandra bounced between PR jobs, always complaining about difficult bosses and unfair treatment. She had a pattern of exaggerating her accomplishments while diminishing everyone else's. When I made lieutenant, she told relatives I was just pushing papers. When I earned my warfare qualifications, she said I was playing dress-up. The real problem intensified when Cassandra started dating Jake Morrison 6 months ago. Shed met him at a charity event in San Diego, where she was working as an event coordinator. Jake was everything Shed ever wanted: tall, dark, handsome, and wearing the prestigious Navy SEAL trident. She was immediately smitten, not just with Jake, but with the status his career brought her. Cassandra began spinning elaborate stories about her own military connections, claiming she grew up in the military world and understood the lifestyle better than most civilians. She conveniently forgot to mention that I was currently serving as a commander in Naval Intelligence. Instead, she told Jake and his friends that her sister had tried the military thing, but couldn't hack it, and was now working some boring desk job. It'd been deployed for 8 months on a classified mission in the Mediterranean, coordinating intelligence operations with NATO allies. Communication with family was limited, and I couldn't discuss my work. Cassandra used my absence to craft her narrative, telling Jake that I was jealous of her success and had always been the troubled sister who couldn't find her place in life. When I returned stateside 2 weeks ago, I was exhausted but proud. Our mission had been successful, and I'd received commendation from senior command. I was looking forward to some leave time and reconnecting with my family. I called Cassandra to let her know I was back, and she grudgingly invited me to her engagement dinner. "Just so you know," she said coolly over the phone, "Jake's friends will be there, and they're all high achievers. Maybe try to dress nicely for once and don't mention that military phase you went through. It's embarrassing." I was stunned. Military phase? I'd been serving my country for 10 years, but I bit my tongue. I wanted to meet Jake and celebrate my sister's engagement, despite her attitude. The dinner was at an upscale restaurant in downtown San Diego. Cassandra had invited Jake's SEAL teammates and their wives, along with our parents who'd flown in from Virginia. I arrived wearing a simple black dress and blazer, having left my uniform in the car. I wanted this to be about Cassandra, not my career. From the moment I walked in, Cassandra was different. She introduced me to Jake's group as my older sister who's between jobs right now. When Jake asked what field I worked in, Cassandra quickly interjected, "Oh. Rory's had trouble finding her niche. She tried the military for a while but it didn't really work out. She's been struggling to find steady work." I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, but I stayed silent. These were Jake's friends and teammates, and I didn't want to cause drama at my sister's engagement dinner. Jake seemed confused by the introduction, asking follow-up questions about my background that Cassandra kept deflecting. Trust me, she laughed, linking arms with Jake. You don't want to get her started on her military fantasies. She watches too many movies and thinks she knows about service life. It's actually pretty sad. The lies kept flowing throughout dinner. Cassandra told stories about having to bail me out of various situations, painting me as irresponsible and delusional. She claimed I'd been living in a fantasy world, pretending to be something I wasn't. Jake's teammates exchanged glances, clearly uncomfortable with how Cassandra was treating me. The breaking point came during dessert, when Jake mentioned a recent operation his team had supported in the Mediterranean. My ears perked up because I'd coordinated intelligence for that very mission. When I started to contribute to the conversation, sharing some general knowledge about the region, Cassandra exploded. There she goes again, she announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Rory, please stop pretending you know anything about military operations. You're embarrassing yourself in front of real service members. Jake and his team actually serve our country while you sit at home watching war movies and playing pretend soldier. The restaurant went quiet. Jake's teammates looked mortified. Our parents sat frozen in shock. I felt tears burning my eyes, not from sadness, but from pure rage at the injustice of it all. My own sister was humiliating me in front of a group of service members, lying about my decade of dedicated service to our country. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. I excused myself from the table, walking calmly to the bathroom while my mind raced. In the mirror, I saw a woman who'd spent 10 years serving her country with distinction, who'd just coordinated a successful NATO operation, who'd earned the respect of admirals and foreign military leaders. I wasn't going to let my sister's lies stand another minute, but I also wasn't going to lose my composure. Military training had taught me that the best operations require careful planning and precise execution. If Cassandra wanted to play games, she'd picked the wrong opponent. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts, until I found Admiral Patricia Hayes, my commanding officer. She'd given me her personal number for emergencies, and while this wasn't exactly a crisis of national security, it was definitely an emergency of personal honor. More importantly, Admiral Hayes had specifically mentioned that her nephew was a Navy SEAL stationed in San Diego. Admiral Hayes, this is Commander Sterling. I apologize for calling during your evening, but I have an unusual situation. I quickly explained what was happening, and Admiral Hayes was both amused and outraged on my behalf. Rory, you've spent 8 months coordinating intelligence operations that saved lives. You've earned commendations from 3 NATO countries. And your sister is calling you a pretend soldier? Oh, we're going to fix this right now. She gave me Lieutenant Commander David Hayes' contact information and told me to text him immediately. Davies with SEAL Team 7. If Jake Morrison is who I think he is, they've worked together. Tell Davy, I said, to set the record straight about what real service looks like. Within minutes, David Hayes had texted back, "Holy shit, you're the Commander Sterling?" Jake's told me about his fiancé's wannabe military sister. Mom, with respect, I think it's time someone corrected this situation. I'm 20 minutes out. I returned to the table with renewed confidence. Cassandra was in full storytelling mode, regaling Jake's teammates with another fabricated tale about having to reality check me when I claimed to understand military culture. The thing is, she was saying, gesturing dramatically with her wine glass, some people watch a few action movies and suddenly think they're experts on military life. It's actually offensive to real service members like you guys. Jake looked increasingly uncomfortable. I could see him studying me, trying to reconcile his fiancé's description with what he was observing. Military personnel are trained to read people, and something about Cassandra's story wasn't adding up for him. I sat down quietly and waited. Patience was a virtue I'd learned during countless surveillance operations. Sometimes the best strategy was to let your opponent dig their own grave deeper before making your move. Cassandra continued her performance, now claiming that I'd once shown up to a military charity event in costume and had to be escorted out. Complete fiction. But she was getting laughs from some of the civilian wives at the table. Jake's SEAL teammates, however, were looking more skeptical by the minute. "You know what's funny?" said Petty Officer Rodriguez, one of Jake's friends. "You describe your sister like she's stolen valor or something. But stolen valor guys usually try to impress people with fake stories. Your sister hasn't said a single word about military service all night." Cassandra waved dismissively. "That's because she knows ill. Call her out on her lies. Trust me, I've had to deal with her fantasies for years." That's when my phone buzzed with a text from David Hayes. "In the parking lot. Jake's truck is the blue Ford, right? I can see dress blues hanging in a silver sedan. Those yours, Commander. I smiled and typed back. Affirmative. Come on in. It's showtime. I watched through the restaurant's windows as a tall man in civilian clothes walked toward the entrance. Even out of uniform, David Hayes carried himself with unmistakable military bearing. Jake noticed him through the window and his face lit up. Hey, that's Dave Hayes, Jake told his teammates. Wonder what he's doing here. Cassandra was still talking, now describing how I allegedly tried to infiltrate military social events by pretending to be an officer. The irony was so thick I could cut it with a kabar knife. David Hayes walked into the restaurant and scanned the room until his eyes found our table. When he saw me, his entire posture shifted to attention. He approached our table with purpose, and I could see Jake trying to figure out why his teammate looked like he was approaching a superior officer. Excuse me, David said, his voice carrying the crisp authority of a seasoned NCO. I'm looking for Commander Sterling. The table went silent. Cassandra's face drained of color as David's eyes met mine. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. I'm Commander Sterling, I said quietly. Without hesitation, David snapped to attention and rendered a perfect salute. Mom, Lieutenant Commander Hayes, SEAL Team 7. Admiral Hayes sends her regards and asked me to personally thank you for your outstanding service during Operation Mediterranean Shield. I returned his salute with military precision, feeling 10 years of training and service flow through the gesture. At ease, Lieutenant Commander. Please, join us. The restaurant seemed to hold its breath. Jake's mouth was hanging open. His teammates were staring in shock. Our parents looked confused but proud, and Cassandra looked like she was about to be sick. Ma'am, David continued, still standing at attention. I wanted to personally express my team's gratitude for the intelligence coordination you provided during our recent operation. Your work saved American lives, and we're honored to meet you. Jake slowly rose from his chair, his face cycling through confusion, realization, and then something that looked like horror as he began to understand exactly who his fiancé had been humiliating all evening. Commander. Jake's voice was barely a whisper. You are a commander in the United States Navy. The silence stretched like a taut wire ready to snap. I could feel the entire restaurant's attention focused on our table as Jake processed the reality of what his fiancé had done. Cassandra sat frozen, her wine glass halfway to her lips, looking like a deer caught in headlights. Yes, Lieutenant Commander Morrison, I replied formally, using his rank for the first time all evening. I'm Commander Aurora Sterling, Naval Intelligence. I believe you supported one of our operations last month in the Mediterranean. Jake's face went through several emotions at once. Recognition, respect, and then a dawning horror as he realized Head been sitting silently while his fiancée systematically humiliated a superior officer. In the military hierarchy, I outranked him significantly. Mom, Jake started to stand at attention, but I gestured for him to remain seated. At ease, Jake. We're off duty. I kept my voice calm and professional, but I could see the impact my words were having on everyone at the table. David Hayes remained standing, clearly enjoying the moment. Commander Sterling, I hope you don't mind, but when Admiral Hayes told me what was happening here tonight, I felt compelled to set the record straight. Mom, your intelligence work coordinated assets for 3 different SEAL teams including ours. Your mission planning was flawless. Cassandra finally found her voice, though it came out as a strangled whisper. This isn't possible. Rory, what's going on? Why is everyone calling you Commander? I turned to face my sister directly, my military training helping me maintain perfect composure despite the fury building inside me. Cassandra, I've been a commissioned officer in the United States Navy for 10 years. I graduated from the Naval Academy, which you know perfectly well. I've served on 3 deployments and just returned from 8 months coordinating NATO intelligence operations in the Mediterranean. I currently hold the rank of Commander, and I report directly to Admiral Patricia Hayes at Naval Intelligence Command. The words hung in the air like bombs waiting to explode. Jake's teammates were staring at Cassandra with expressions ranging from confusion to disgust. The civilian wives looked mortified that they'd been laughing at jokes about a senior military officer. But you never, Cassandra started, then stopped. Even she couldn't finish that lie. Never what? I asked calmly. Never told you about my career? Cassandra, I've called you from deployment. I've sent pictures in uniform. You've attended my promotion ceremonies. You've been to events at the officers' club. What exactly did you think I was doing for the past decade? Jake was staring at his fiancée like he'd never seen her before. Cass, you told me your sister was between jobs. You said she had military fantasies. You said she was unstable and couldn't hold down work. I didn't mean. Cassandra fumbled for words. Petty Officer Rodriguez leaned forward, his expression serious. Mom, I apologize for any disrespect shown to you this evening. We had no idea we were in the presence of a senior officer. The disrespect didn't come from you, I replied, looking directly at my sister. David Hayes pulled out his phone. Commander, would it be appropriate if I shared some of the commendations from your recent mission? I think everyone here should understand exactly what kind of service member they're dealing with. Before I could respond, Jake held up his hand. Dave, what exactly did Commander Sterling do during our last deployment? Sir, the commander coordinated intelligence for Operation Mediterranean Shield. She managed assets from 5 different countries, coordinated with NATO command, and her mission planning directly resulted in the successful rescue of 12 hostages, including 2 American civilians. Her work was so outstanding that she received personal commendations from the British SAS, French Special Forces, and Italian Naval Command. I watched Cassandra's face crumble as the magnitude of her lies became clear to everyone at the table. Our parents were staring at her in shock and disappointment. Cassandra, our father said quietly, how could you say those things about your sister? We raised you both to respect military service. Our mother looked like she was fighting back tears. Honey, Rory has dedicated her life to serving our country. She's followed in your father's and my footsteps. How could you diminish that? But Cassandra wasn't done digging her hole deeper. Instead of apologizing, she doubled down with desperate anger. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Everyone always makes such a big deal about Rory's little military games while ignoring my accomplishments. I have a real career in public relations. I organize events and manage communications for major corporations. But no, everyone only cares about Rory playing soldier. The words playing soldier hit the table like a physical blow. Jake's teammates exchanged looks of pure disgust. David Hayes actually took a step forward before catching himself. Playing soldier. Jake's voice was dangerously quiet. Cassandra, Commander Sterling doesn't play soldier. She is a soldier. She's a senior naval officer who outranks me and has coordinated operations that saved lives. Real lives. American lives. I plan events, Cassandra shot back. I organize charity galas and corporate retreats. My work matters too. Nobody said it doesn't, I replied calmly. But you've spent the entire evening lying about my service and humiliating me in front of your fiancé's colleagues. You told them I was unemployed, unstable, and delusional. You said I had military fantasies and was playing pretend soldier. Those weren't jokes, Cassandra. Those were deliberate lies designed to embarrass me. Jake was staring at Cassandra like he was seeing her for the first time. Why would you do this? Why would you lie about your sister's service? Because I'm tired of living in her shadow. Cassandra exploded, finally revealing the truth. Everything is always about Rory's career, Rory's achievements, Rory's service to the country. What about my achievements? What about my life? I finally meet someone amazing who appreciates what I do, and I didn't want him to think less of me because my sister is some hotshot military officer. The confession hung in the air like toxic gas. Jake slowly shook his head. Think less of you? Cassandra, having a sister who serves our country with distinction, would make me respect you more, not less. But lying about it? Humiliating a senior officer? That's... He trailed off, unable to find words strong enough. David Hayes cleared his throat. If I may, sir, in the military we have a saying, honor, courage, commitment. What we've witnessed here tonight is the opposite of all 3. Our parents looked devastated. Dad, who'd spent 20 years as a DoD contractor, looked like he was questioning where he'd gone wrong as a father. Mom was openly crying now. Rory, Mom said through her tears, I am so sorry. Your father and I are incredibly proud of your service, and we should have said that more often. But I was watching Jake, seeing the wheels turn in his mind as he processed not just what Cassandra had done tonight, but what it revealed about her character. The woman he'd fallen in love with had just shown him a side of herself that was petty, jealous, dishonest, and cruel. And judging by the expression on his face, Jake Morrison was beginning to realize he might not know his fiancée at all. The evening was about to take an even more dramatic turn, and I had a feeling Cassandra's humiliation was just beginning. But first, I needed to address something that had been bothering me all night. exactly how much Jake knew about his fiancé's pattern of lies. I decided it was time to take control of the situation completely. Jake, I need to ask you something. And I'd appreciate an honest answer. Jake straightened up, his military bearing automatic when addressed by a superior officer. Yes, ma'am. What exactly has Cassandra told you about our family and our background? Jake glanced nervously at his fiancée, then back at me. She said you both grew up around military bases because your parents worked for defense contractors. She said you tried to join the military but couldn't handle it and were discharged early. She said you'd been struggling with employment and had some mental health issues related to your military experience. I felt the blood drain from my face. Mental health issues? Cassandra had gone even further than I'd realized. She told you I was discharged. My voice was deadly quiet. Yes. Mom. She said you had trouble adjusting to military life and that the family was worried about you. David Hayes made a sound that was somewhere between a laugh and a growl. Commander Sterling, would you like me to pull up your service record on my phone? Because I can access the basic information right now. Please do. I said, never taking my eyes off Cassandra, who was now visibly shaking. David tapped on his phone for a moment, then began reading. Commander Aurora Sterling, Naval Academy Class of 2014, graduated magna cum laude, Naval Intelligence Officer, current assignment, NATO Intelligence Liaison, Mediterranean Command, security clearance, top secret SCI, commendations include. He scrolled down. Jesus, Mom, there are a lot of these. Navy Achievement Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, NATO Meritorious Service Medal. That's enough, I said quietly. Jake, does that sound like someone who was discharged for mental health reasons? Jake was staring at Cassandra with a mixture of horror and disgust. Cassandra, what the hell? Why would you lie about something like that? But Cassandra was in full panic mode now. I didn't lie. I simplified things. Rory's always been dramatic about her military stuff, and I thought, you thought what? I interrupted. You thought you'd destroy my reputation to make yourself look better? You told the man you want to marry that I'm mentally unstable. She also told me you were jealous of her success. Jake added, his voice getting harder. She said you'd tried to sabotage her previous relationships because you couldn't stand to see her happy. I felt like I'd been slapped. Sabotage your relationships, our mother gasped. Cassandra Rose Sterling, that is enough. How dare you spread such lies about your sister? Dad was shaking his head in disbelief. Cass, honey, what's happened to you? This isn't how we raised you. But Cassandra was spiraling now, lashing out like a cornered animal. You all act like Rory's so perfect. Saint Rory with her medals and her important job. But what about me? I work hard too. I built my own career without family connections or government benefits. Family connections. I stood up slowly, my military training keeping my voice level despite the rage building inside me. Cassandra, I earned every promotion, every medal, every assignment through merit and performance. I've spent months away from home, missed holidays, missed birthdays, put my life on the line for my country, and you've been telling people I'm mentally ill. Jake was looking at his fiancée like she was a stranger. Cass, this is sick. Commander Sterling has dedicated her life to serving our country, and you've been… What? Making up stories to tear her down. She always gets all the attention. Cassandra screamed, loud enough that other diners were now openly staring. Perfect Rory with her perfect career and her perfect life. Do you know what it's like growing up in the shadow of someone who everyone thinks is so amazing? I know exactly what that feels like, I said quietly, because I grew up watching my parents bend over backwards to accommodate your every need while I was working twice as hard to earn half the recognition. The truth was finally coming out, and it was uglier than I'd imagined. David Hayes cleared his throat. If I may, Commander, there's something else I think everyone should know. I nodded for him to continue. Mom, your recent mission saved the lives of 12 hostages, including Jake's teammate, Petty Officer Martinez's younger brother, who was working as a civilian contractor in the region. Jake's head snapped up. What? Danny was one of the hostages. Yes, sir. Commander Sterling's intelligence work and coordination with special operations led directly to the successful rescue of all 12 hostages, including Danny Martinez. Jake turned to stare at me, his expression a mixture of awe and gratitude. You saved Danny's life. It was a team effort, I said simply, but yes, our intelligence coordination was critical to the mission's success. Cassandra was crying now, but they weren't tears of remorse. They were tears of frustration and self-pity. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Even here, even now, everything becomes about how amazing Rory is. No, Jake said firmly, standing up. This is about how you've been lying to me for 6 months. About your sister. About your family. About who you really are. He looked around the table at his teammates. Gentlemen, I owe Commander Sterling and all of you an apology for subjecting you to this situation. He turned back to Cassandra, and I could see the exact moment when their relationship died in his eyes. Cassandra, I can't marry someone who would destroy her own sister's reputation out of jealousy. I can't build a life with someone who lies about family members who serve our country, and I sure as hell can't trust someone who would make up stories about mental illness to make herself look better. Cassandra's face went white. Jake, no, you don't understand. I love you. I don't think you understand what love means, Jake replied sadly. Love doesn't tear other people down to build yourself up, and honor matters to me. It's everything to me. How could I marry someone who has none? The engagement ring hit the table with a small metallic clink that somehow sounded louder than Cassandra's sobs. Jake had removed it calmly, deliberately, and placed it in front of his now ex-fiancé without saying another word. Jake, please, Cassandra begged, reaching for his hand. I made a mistake. I was just nervous about you meeting my family. I can explain everything. Jake pulled his hand away gently but firmly. Cass, this wasn't a mistake. This was 6 months of deliberate lies. You've been building a relationship with me based on false information about your own family. How could I ever trust you again? The weight of his words settled over the table like a heavy blanket. Jake's teammates sat in uncomfortable silence, witnessing the destruction of their friend's engagement in real time. Our parents looked devastated, not just by Cassandra's behavior, but by the realization of how deeply their youngest daughter's jealousy and insecurity had corrupted her character. David Hayes checked his phone and looked up at Jake. Sir, if you need somewhere to process this, my apartment's not far. You probably shouldn't drive right now. Jake nodded gratefully. Thanks, Dave. He turned to our parents. Mr. and Mrs. Sterling, I'm truly sorry this evening ended this way. You raised an incredible daughter. He looked directly at me. Commander Sterling, it's been an honor meeting you. I hope we can work together again in the future. I stood and extended my hand, which he shook with respect. Likewise, Lieutenant Commander Morrison, I'm sorry your evening was ruined. Mom, my evening wasn't ruined. My eyes were opened. There's a difference. As Jake and his teammates prepared to leave, Petty Officer Rodriguez approached me. Commander, I just wanted to say thank you for bringing Danny home safe. His family doesn't know the details, but they know someone in intelligence made the rescue possible. That someone was you. After the SEALs departed, our table fell into heavy silence. Cassandra sat staring at her engagement ring, tears streaming down her face. Our parents looked like they'd aged 10 years in the span of an hour. Cassandra, Dad said finally, his voice heavy with disappointment. I need to understand something. Why did you tell Jake that Rory had mental health issues? That's not just lying. That's character assassination. Cassandra's response was barely a whisper. Because every guy I've ever dated ends up being more impressed by her than by me. Even when she's not around, when I mention my sister is in the military, suddenly I become less interesting. I thought if Jake believed she was unstable, he wouldn't be curious about her. So you decided to destroy my reputation preemptively? I asked, still trying to process the calculated cruelty of her actions. I didn't think you'd ever meet him, she snapped, some of her old defiance returning. You're always deployed or working on some classified project. I figured I could control the narrative. Mom looked heartbroken. Honey, your sister has missed family gatherings, holidays, and important events because she's serving our country, and you've been using her absence to spread lies about her. Everyone always takes her side, Cassandra muttered. There are no sides here, Dad said firmly. There's right and wrong. What you did tonight was wrong, and it cost you the man you claimed to love. I watched my sister's face cycle through emotions. Anger, sadness, self-pity, and finally, what looked like genuine realization of what she'd lost. But even in her moment of consequence, I could see her mind working, trying to find a way to shift blame or minimize her responsibility. Rory, she said suddenly. Can't you talk to Jake? Explain that this was just a misunderstanding? You could tell him I was just nervous and said the wrong things. I stared at her in disbelief. Cassandra, You spent 6 months systematically lying about me to the man you wanted to marry. You called me mentally unstable, unemployed, and delusional. You humiliated me in front of his colleagues and tried to make me look like a fraud. And now you want me to help you get him back. We're family, she pleaded. Families stick together. Families stick together. I agreed. But you haven't been acting like family. You've been acting like an enemy. The restaurant manager appeared at our table, clearly uncomfortable with the drama that had unfolded. Excuse me, folks, but we've had some complaints about the disturbance. I'm going to have to ask you to settle your check and move along. Dad handled the bill while we sat in awkward silence. As we prepared to leave, Cassandra made one last desperate attempt. This isn't fair, she said, her voice rising again. One mistake and my whole life falls apart. Jake was supposed to be my future. It wasn't one mistake, Mom said sadly. It was months of calculated deception. And sweetheart, you didn't just lie about your sister. You revealed something about your character that Jake couldn't accept. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said quietly, that when someone shows you who they really are, you should believe them. Tonight, you showed Jake exactly who you are. Someone who tears down family members out of jealousy, someone who lies about military service, someone who creates elaborate deceptions to manipulate people. That's not the kind of person a man like Jake can build a life with. Cassandra's face crumpled as the full weight of her actions finally hit her. The man she loved was gone, and it was entirely her own fault. But more than that, she was beginning to realize that her behavior had damaged relationships beyond just her romantic one. As we walked toward the parking lot, I could see Jake and his teammates standing by their trucks, clearly debriefing the evening's events. Jake looked up as we passed, nodded respectfully to me, and then deliberately looked away from Cassandra. It was a small gesture, but it spoke volumes. In military culture, when someone loses your respect, they become invisible. Jake Morrison had just erased my sister from his world completely. And honestly, watching Cassandra realize that she'd thrown away her future for nothing more than petty jealousy, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel. I felt sorry for her, but not sorry enough to fix what she'd broken. 6 months have passed since that catastrophic dinner, and the ripple effects are still reshaping our family dynamics in ways I never expected. Cassandra moved back to our hometown in Virginia, taking a job with a small marketing firm and entering therapy to work through what she calls her jealousy issues. Our parents insisted on family counseling sessions, which have been brutally honest but necessary. During one particularly intense session, Cassandra finally admitted something that shocked us all. I've been competing with Rory since we were kids, but the competition was all in my head. She never tried to outshine me. I just felt like I could never measure up to her achievements, so I started tearing them down instead of building my own up. Our therapist helped us understand that Cassandra's behavior wasn't just about sibling rivalry. It was about deep-seated insecurity and a pattern of seeking validation by diminishing others. The lies about my mental health and military service were just the most extreme examples of a lifetime of small deceptions designed to make herself look better by making others look worse. Jake, meanwhile, became an unexpected friend and ally. 2 weeks after the dinner, he reached out through David Hayes to apologize again, and to ask if I'd be willing to speak to his SEAL team about intelligence coordination. That speaking engagement led to others, and I've since become a regular lecturer on inter-service cooperation at the Naval Special Warfare Training Center. The professional relationship with Jake's team opened doors I never expected. Admiral Hayes recommended me for a position as liaison between Naval Intelligence and Special Operations Command, a career move that's allowed me to work more closely with the operators who depend on our intelligence. It's incredibly rewarding work, and it's connected me with a community of service members who truly understand the sacrifices we all make. But perhaps the most unexpected development came 3 months ago, when Jake introduced me to his older brother Marcus, a Marine Corps pilot recently returned from deployment. Marcus and I connected immediately over shared experiences of military life, deployment challenges, and the sometimes difficult transition back to civilian relationships. What started as friendship has slowly developed into something deeper. It's ironic, Marcus told me recently over dinner. My brother lost a relationship because his fiancé lied about military service, and I found one because military service brought us together honestly. Cassandra struggled with my budding relationship with Marcus at first, seeing it as another example of military connections benefiting me while excluding her. But during our last family counseling session, she surprised everyone by saying, "I'm trying to be happy for you, Rory." am realizing that your success doesn't diminish my worth, and your happiness doesn't take away from mine. It's progress, though we're nowhere near fully repaired. Trust, once broken the way Cassandra broke it, takes years to rebuild. But we're working on it, one honest conversation at a time. The most profound change has been in my relationship with our parents. They've made a conscious effort to celebrate both our achievements equally, but more importantly, they've stopped making excuses for Cassandra's behavior. Dad, who spent years minimizing her actions as sibling rivalry, finally acknowledged that what she did was character assassination, not harmless teasing. I failed you both, he admitted during one family session. I failed Cassandra by not addressing her jealousy when it first appeared, and I failed you by not protecting you from her attacks on your reputation. As for my military career, the events of that night have had surprising positive consequences. Admiral Hayes used the incident as a teaching moment about the importance of family support for service members, and my story has been featured in several military publications as an example of how civilian misunderstanding can damage military families. I've also become an advocate for better military family education programs, working to help civilian family members understand what their loved ones actually do in service. Too many military marriages fail because of misunderstanding and miscommunication about the demands and importance of military service. 3 weeks ago, I received word that I've been selected for promotion to captain, an advancement that will make me one of the youngest female captains in Naval Intelligence. When I called to share the news, Cassandra was the first to congratulate me, and for the first time in years, her congratulations felt genuine. "I'm proud of you," she said simply, "and I'm sorry it took me so long to say that without jealousy attached." Jake, who's now dating a trauma nurse who works with military families, sent a text that made me laugh. "Congratulations, Captain Sterling. Your sister's loss was the intelligence community's gain, but I'm betting she knows that now." Looking back on that disastrous dinner, I realize it was necessary for our family's healing, even though it was painful. Cassandra's lies had been festering for years, poisoning our relationships and her own self-worth. The explosion that night, as brutal as it was, finally brought everything into the open where it could be addressed. Sometimes the most important battles aren't fought overseas or in classified operations. Sometimes they're fought at dinner tables and in therapy sessions, where families learn to tell the truth about themselves and choose healing over comfortable deception. My sister learned that tearing others down doesn't build you up. Our parents learned that enabling destructive behavior doesn't help anyone, and I learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living authentically and allowing the truth to speak for itself. The military taught me about honor, courage, and commitment. My family taught me about forgiveness, growth, and second chances. Both lessons have been invaluable. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced family betrayal that forced everyone to confront uncomfortable truths? How did your family handle jealousy or competition between siblings? Share your stories in the comments below, because these experiences are more common than we like to admit, and there's healing in knowing we're not alone. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life stories about family dynamics, military life, and the sometimes messy process of growing up and learning to support each other authentically. Share this video with anyone who might need to hear that families can heal from even the deepest betrayals when everyone commits to honesty and growth. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember, sometimes the hardest battles lead to the most important victories. Here is to choosing truth over comfort, growth over stagnation, and authentic relationships over convenient lies. Take care, everyone.